Alrighty then, greetings and welcome to yet another Sounds of Solar podcast. I'm your host today, Christoph Brun. To my right is...
Prahlad Shivshankran.
And Russell Hamilton.
Who's on my left. Gentlemen, it's been 1 million years since we've all been in the same studio at the same time. You are real, Prati, right?
I am real,
You're back.
He's back.
I'm back.
Guess who's back? Prati's back.
Prati's back. They wrote a song about that.
Yeah.
Been away for way too long. No, but
We missed you.
Yeah, we did.
I missed you guys too. I was following the recordings, you guys did an awesome job. So
Thank you.
So
I was following your trip on Insta.
on Insta.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Yeah.
what about the trip?
Actually, Russ should have been there for. You should go to Dubai.
what?
I'd love to go to Dubai.
I was in India for 4 weeks, 1 week in Dubai, and then back
Yeah.
to the US.
That's pretty common when people go there. Like they always, I feel like it seems like people are out taking a layover in Dubai and just hanging
Yep.
out.
Did you go to the Ferrari
Yes, I went to
theme
the
park?
Yep, I went to Ferrari
wanna
World.
go
It
there.
was insane.
I bet.
You should.
Did you go on that
there.
roller coaster that's
Yep.
supposed to like replicate the
Yep.
acceleration of a Ferrari?
Dude, I made the mistake of, because I think you need to make sure your neck is
All the way back.
all the way back.
Yeah, it's
I did that in the beginning, but then there was a drop, and for a split second, I just lost focus because I was just stunned, and my head dropped. And then when I tried to push it back is when I started getting giddy, and then when I got out, I hated it after that, just because the entire time I was just giddy.
Yeah.
But you would love that place. It's a racer's
All right, let's
paradise.
go.
Yeah.
We're going this weekend.
All right, we'll have to go. Let's record an episode there.
So biggest
Please.
highlight of the 4 weeks in India.
Biggest highlight, I think two highlights. One, in India itself, we did go to this island right off the coast of India called Andaman and Nicobar. Just went with the entire family, my in-laws, my parents. My grandmom accompanied us as well, so we did a lot of like water activities, snorkeling, we did jet skiing, we did a little bit of scuba as well. So it was a lot of fun with them. Just first time everybody together, just having a fun trip. So that was unique, especially with my grandmom who's like 80 now. So she was sitting in the boat with just life vest, and like we were just, at least I was paranoid. I was like, like hopefully everything goes well. So that was one big highlight. And then the second one was Dubai. Dubai was, I think all three of us should go there, just do a recording there.
I think we should. Jordan, let's get it, Jordan. Let's do it. Andy, Dubai.
Yeah, I was
They
gonna
could have some
Okay,
big.
guys.
They could have some big renewable conferences in
Dude, there
Dubai,
are-
right?
I'm sure
there
they
are
do.
mega projects happening in the,
Yeah.
in the
AUE.
Gulf.
Yeah.
So, and they have a scuba diving setup, literally like a entire space dedicated 60 or 80 meters down. But no, it's
Gotcha.
almost like it's a man-made scuba diving kind of place where you can literally go to different. They've made different rooms, dedicated rooms, so you can kind of dive in and then kind of take a look. And it's insane. Like it's
And that's what you
engineering
did?
outside the world. No, I didn't do that. I didn't do scuba.
Okay.
But in Dubai itself, I did go to Burj Khalifa. I did all the way to the 127th floor, and it was insane. And then visited the Museum of Future. They've got a frame structure that you can visit. It's engineering out of this world. Like
Wow.
it's a place you guys should go to for sure. Like I think Dubai, like in 2000, was completely different. It was just
Yeah.
barren. There was
Yeah.
literally nothing. And now there's mega structures there, and they've like
Built islands. And
Mhm.
They've built, man-made islands
Yes,
there.
yeah.
Palm Jumeirah, and
Yeah.
there's one more like that. So
It's like a sailboat or something, isn't it?
it's literally just a palm tree. It's like
Right, there's a palm
Yeah.
tree. I think
Yeah,
there's
yeah,
another one,
yeah,
a sailboat.
yeah. So, and it's insane. Like just thinking about the engineering going behind it,
Yeah.
like it's wild. It's one of those places where the budget doesn't exist. So
Yeah.
Yeah, but then it's crazy that I mean, sure, you can engineer a lot of things, but you also still have to be able to build it. So we have a new series coming for the Sounds of Solar podcast. We're going to be doing kind of a director's roundtable, kind of an in-depth look at various departments from the high level at EVS. Russ, you're going to be doing the first one.
That's correct.
What exactly will you be talking about?
Yep. So the first one that we're going to do of this director circle is going to focus mostly on the PMO group, which is the Project Management Office group. Noah Waterhouse is the senior director of that department. Also, I'll be interviewing at the same time Rob Kack, who is a senior director of civil, and Teresa Lassegard, who is the director of project administration. And we're going to be just talking about they're some of the original OGs in the company, Teresa's been here 33 years. Rob's been here over 25 years, and Noah's been here 21 years. So we're just going to talk about, just the PMO group as well as their experience here at EVS.
Great.
So
Let's roll into it.
Well, welcome back to another episode of Sounds of Solar. We have a very special episode today. We are joined with some of the OGs of EVS. I'm your host today, Russell Hamilton. With me today, some great guests. We have Noah, Rob, and Teresa. Why don't y'all introduce yourself real quick? Noah?
Sure. Noah Waterhouse, Senior Director of Project Management and Quality at EVS.
All right. Teresa?
Teresa Lassegard, Director of Project Administration.
And Mr. Kack.
Rob Kack, Senior Director of Civil, Structural, Geotech, and Survey.
All right. And from my understanding, you all been here 20 plus years? 20?
Yep, 21 for me.
24 and a half.
Just on the cusp of 33.
Wow, 33 years. That's amazing. What would you all do this weekend?
I watched your kid.
That is right. Thank you. Rob did watch my son for me for like 7 days. That was pretty
Tuesday
amazing.
to Sunday.
Tuesday to Sunday.
Yeah, he was good. It was fun.
Yeah. Got him to eat lobster for the first time.
Yep.
Yeah. And Rob watched my kid because I was in Florida with Jason Danes. Shout out to Jason. Spent a week out there on vacation. We went to the Gulf, whatever you want to call it. Went to the Gulf. That was a lot of fun. Spent 2 days on Lake Estapoca doing some bass fishing. That was pretty crazy. And then we did the 12 hours of Sebring race, which was pretty amazing. It's a 2-day race. They did the 12 hours on Saturday, but we did go. There was another race on Friday and checked that whole place out. It was pretty cool. So, yeah, thank you, Rob, for watching Zayden. That was a lot of fun.
He was great. Yeah, he let me beat him at a board game.
That's good. Katana, right?
Yeah, Catan.
Catan. Okay, cool.
I'm just curious why you had lobster.
Actually, I had Sohan over, his family over. For,
Oh, you did?
Dinner a couple weeks ago, and I told my wife I need 10 6-ounce lobster tails. And she just heard 10 lobster tails. And they were 16-ounce lobster tails.
Oh my God.
So we couldn't refreeze it. I had to cook it and then freeze it. So
Nice. Yeah. It was kind of fun to get a video from Andy with Zayden golfing just out of the blue. No, hey, what's up? No, nothing. Just all of a sudden video of Zayden. I was like, what is Andy sending me? Video of Zayden. He's like, it's okay if you hit it. And I was like, hit what? And then he hit the ball and it went straight off and hit the wall or something.
yeah, he hoselled it. Couldn't take the pressure.
Yeah. What about you, Teresa? What'd you do this weekend?
Well, I'm in the middle of a project at home removing wallpaper.
Oh.
So it wasn't fun, but it was productive.
Okay. All right. What about you, Noah? You were busy. Too busy to pick me up from the airport at 9 o'clock in the morning.
This is how busy I was. I had the first weekend in quite a while where I wasn't required to do anything for or with anybody. And the most notable thing that happened is I took the 2 probably best naps of my entire life.
That's fair.
So that's what I was doing. I did go out Saturday night a little bit, and that's why I wasn't available to pick you up at the airport.
It's all good.
I didn't want to commit to that,
Yeah.
being awake that early on Sunday. But it was a very low-key weekend for me, one of my favorites.
And that's fair. I was like, after I asked you, I was like, yeah, you do live pretty far from the airport.
Yeah, it's a solid hour.
My bad. Yeah. It wasn't like me asking you to pick me up if you were here in the office.
Right.
So, yeah. Well, cool. Let's jump into the episode. It's great to have you all on here. Let's talk about, the brief history of EVS, and maybe start with you, Teresa, if you want to, tell us what EVS was like, when you first started, and, Rob and Noah, the same thing.
Well, I started at EBS when it was called Enviroscience back in April of 92.
Okay.
And at that point, we were a small engineering firm. I think there were 18 people. And we did a lot of environmental work, civil. There was no electrical or structural or anything at that point.
Okay. Out of the 18 original people that you started with, how many are still here?
Just Dennis and myself.
Just 2.
Yeah.
That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
All right. What about you, Rob? What was it like when you first started?
Yeah, it was Enviroscience when I started too.
Okay.
We were around 35 people. We had divers that did underwater construction and survey. That was unique. But mostly we were like civil land development and survey to support that.
Okay. Nice. What about you, Noah?
I started in January of 2004, so 21 years ago. It had just become EVS, but all of the merch still said EnviroScience. So
Yeah.
apparently the switch had just been made. And it was all pretty much civil and land surveying, supporting land development back then. And I guess probably in the low to mid 20s for people.
Okay.
I think we went down before we went back up, before we started to grow. I think we were as low as mid teens at one point for me, before we started to grow. But probably the most interesting thing for me for my early days at EVS was just how I got here. A friend that I met in college was, when we were graduating, I was looking for a place to stay until I found a job. I didn't know where I was going to be working, so I didn't know where I wanted to live, and he let me stay with him in his basement, his parents' basement. And his dad ended up being the vice president at EVS.
Oh, okay.
And that was how I met Daryl, and that was how I met Rob, and that was how I got this job.
Nice.
So
Networking.
everyone, networking, or as I called it, bumbling my way through life, getting lucky.
There you go. Yeah. Very cool. Now tell me about, so obviously EnviroScience is kind of, and now we're doing, it was just very much the environmental science stuff and then some civil stuff. Let's talk about the drive. What was the drive to expand the company? What did that look like? For each one of you, what was the motivation, at that time to change to what it is today?
Well, back when I started, we were a DBE, and so we did
What's DB?
a disadvantaged business enterprise.
Okay.
So minority owned.
Mm-hmm.
So we, for a lot of projects that we worked on, we worked with larger clients who needed a percentage.
Understood. Yep.
And so for the first number of years, we were always subconsultants. So that's what I started in marketing, and it was connecting with different engineering firms and providing qualifications to them, getting on their teams. And then when did we start being a prime? It was like on a MnDOT project. We finally got to be the lead on the project instead of being just the DBE.
Okay.
Yeah, Noah was saying that it was only 20 some people when he joined. We had a large transportation group doing DOT work that faded out in the early 2000s. Our focus was on the military work. I think one year we had maybe 90% of the total revenue for the company was through the work that we were doing with RSP Architects for Corps of Engineers. Why did we want to grow? We had been trying to grow, all those years. And, they talk about red ocean, blue ocean, red ocean full of sharks. That was the market that we were in. And so Dennis had this vision of renewable energy. That's the future. How do we get in there? And he knows everybody in the world. So, he leaned on some relationships and we got started. So, our culture is really, we hit deadlines. And so we quickly realized that having sub-consultants or other engineering firms involved, that they don't do it. They play the finger-pointing game. So really to serve our clients and create growth for our people, Noah went from like a new grad to a director in, I don't know, was it 10 years, Noah?
Yeah, about that.
Yeah, it just creates a lot of opportunity for our people with our growth.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's amazing. How about you?
Yeah, I think a lot of it, and back then when we were deciding what markets to get into and how much to grow, that wasn't really something that I was part of the decision making, but I remember observing that process and seeing Dennis and Andy and everybody else that was in charge, just kind of looking at the company as a whole and saying, how are we going to survive if one thing happens in the industries that we're in? We just didn't have a lot of redundancy or a lot of diversity in the market that we served, and things were going well, but there was no guarantee it was going to stay that way. And I think in an effort to not only grow to provide opportunities for employees, but it was growth to try to bring some diversity and redundancy to our client base. And that was really where, in the long run, we found out that it was a blue ocean type of, none of us knew that term back then, but that's really what it became, was Dennis, without knowing that's what he was doing necessarily, looking for that blue ocean where we can stop competing with these other local. There was so much competition in the local market, both for land development and DOT transportation type work. We felt like we punched outside of our weight maybe a little bit, but you can only come in second place on a proposal so many times before you realize we got to do something different, because second place we weren't getting anything for it.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. And now what we are, we have everything in here internally now. We have PV, we have electrical, we have substation. We're working on getting T-line. I believe we've hired our first T-line person. We've got SCADA in-house now. Looking at interconnections, studies, structural, obviously civil. So now we're pretty much a one-stop shop. Geotech as well as survey. So Rob, why don't you kind of give a little bit of, information on like what does it mean to be a one-stop shop? How's that help our clients? What does that look like internally?
Yeah, it's one throat to choke is what some of our clients like to say, but it reduces the finger pointing. Like I was saying earlier, when we're working with another firm, if something is due, they might change something the day before because they can still get done, but then how does that affect the other disciplines that have to update that? So it increases, the communication, the speed of communication, sharing files between disciplines, and we have a good process and structure for weekly meetings where you're forced to have those conversations, whereas if you're partnered with another firm, it's more effort to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, from experience just myself, I understand, I agree with that too. When a lot of times electricals will do just electrical work and we have to work with external civil or structural, and it is much more difficult to share information. And then when you talk about those last minute changes, they tend to happen and, not getting communicated till potentially after a certain submittal. So it definitely, it's a lot easier internally. We're able to walk right over to the civil's desk or the structural's desk, or even the electrical's desk and be like, hey, what's this change? What are we doing? And you can capture that, make sure it gets captured right away. So,
yeah, it also increases innovation, whereas maybe a civil engineer wouldn't be interested in creating more work for themselves that would benefit a structural firm. But we're one EVS, here to help each other. It's the same way when, like, the only way that project is the success is if every discipline, delivers. So when there's a good idea that needs to be done and it's going to save a lot of steel, civil can do regrading or look at high water grading to change steel quantities.
Yeah.
And I just don't think you get that collaboration unless the EPC is actively managing those clients or the subconsultants to make sure that happens.
Yeah. The other benefit I see of that too, and I've seen it a few times here, is that there are folks in different disciplines who are able to see what the other disciplines are doing and actually make a shift in their own career and change from, like, I've seen a civil go into electrical because they've got that exposure working with the electrical team. Like, oh, that's what they do. I'm interested in pursuing that. I think that's also seen some electrical folks go from the PV best design to the study side, right? Like, being able to have that exposure, I think, is another, benefit of having multiple disciplines in-house.
Right. Anything on, like, I guess maybe you'll talk about PMO later, but.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a good segue. I guess we can jump right into that. Noah is our director of the PMO. What else is PMO and?
Yeah, project management and quality.
Okay, and quality. So yeah, this is a fairly newer department at our company, and just kind of feeding off of the one-stop shop, right? So we've had all these different disciplines, and we had project managers in each discipline. And so we saw the need. Somebody saw the need, was very smart, of like, hey, we need to have a central person on these projects to make sure that all these disciplines are talking, and we have one voice for the client. And so the NPM group was created, and Noah, you're the director of that. Give us a little bit of background exactly what the NPM group is.
Well, you just covered it.
Yeah,
that was
my
pretty.
bad.
That was perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he's the senior director.
Oh, excuse me, senior director. Forgive me.
Yeah, so the department is about 2 years old. It actually started not as a department. It started as just an additional role, and that was the multidisciplinary project manager. And so what we recognized is that in the past, when we were only a single discipline as a company, and even when we participated in projects that needed multiple disciplines, there was always somebody. In our case with the military work, it was the architect was the prime. They were just the de facto leadership, and so they did all of the things that needed to be done to lead project management. And as EVS started to grow services internally, we realized that we have multiple project managers on each project, and there was no de facto leader. And as the saying goes, if you have multiple leaders on a project, you have no leaders on a project. And so it started out with this multidisciplinary project manager where their job was just to do anything that needed one person to see to it that things got done the same way, at the same time, same schedule, etc. That was their default role. And it allowed the technical project managers to spend a little bit more time focusing on their own lane, their own technical development of a project, but then also making sure that the oversight was still getting done. And so it started out as an NPM role, and it was only about 6 months into it that Paul, our vice president, suggested that there would be a natural relationship to add project administration, separate them from the admin department at the time, and create a new department that consisted of the NPMs and the project administrators. Because them working closely together, ultimately, it provides more kind of hands-on, single department ownership of the project all the way through its entire life cycle. And so at roughly the same time, we then brought the proposal team in. And so that's what became the PMO, the Project Management Office. It consists of the proposal management, multidisciplinary project management, and the PAs.
Okay. And Teresa, you are under that umbrella?
Yep.
Correct?
Yeah, so we were a standalone section, and it just made so much sense once someone came up with the idea to bring us together, so it was a better team fit.
Mm-hmm.
We are seated together now, so it's like over the wall discussions, and it's just a better connection, a better flow, and it also reduces the number of people that we have to interact with to get the information we need.
Yeah.
So from our side, with contracts and invoicing and change orders and whatnot, to have the MPMs be more the focal point, really streamline things. Otherwise, we're reaching out to 50 project managers, and this just makes life easier. And then it made sense just to pull in proposals too, because it's from when we start pursuing a project till the whole project life cycle is under our umbrella.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think the biggest change obviously was creating a new role, and that was the NPMs. But a very close second in terms of positive impact was the relationship benefit in having the PAs in the same department as these NPMs, because in order to do their job, PAs need a lot of information from project managers.
And we have fun.
We do have
It's
fun.
really a fun department.
We do have fun. Yeah, I said it when we started doing weekly PMO meetings. We meet on Wednesdays instead of Mondays because Mondays are always full. For the first 12 months of that process, I would say I always tell everybody this is my favorite meeting of the week.
It's only your favorite because you're not in my meeting. So, I get it. So let's touch on just a little bit of with this PMO group and how it's improved the quality of our projects overall, the experience our clients are getting with this. So let's talk about maybe a little bit of the benefits of that. And Rob and Teresa, if you have anything to throw in there, please,
sure,
by all means.
Okay, well, without trying to toot our horns too much, the MPMs and the project coordinators that work with them, they do a lot of shepherding of a project. And so, where they're not necessarily doing the quality control, the technical quality control reviews themselves, they definitely participate in making sure that they're getting done. So they make sure that each technical group is doing what they need to do. But probably more than anything, they just provide that consistent presence on a project where if there's any ambiguity about what we are collectively supposed to be doing, the NPM, it's their job to have that answer. When technical project managers need to know what's going on a project that's consistently full of chaos, they all at least have one person to go back to and say, can you just always know what's going on here, so that when we when we lose our way temporarily, there's always somebody to come back to. And I think it has an equal positive impact on the experience that the technical PMs have in trying to sort through all the chaos of a project as it does for the client. And I think it has a very indirect positive benefit or impact on our quality as well, the same way.
I mean, as a project manager myself, being here before we had the PMO group, being here now with the PMO group, I can say that it makes projects a lot easier for me to manage because I can go to that one person and rely on them to be on top of everything. Studies, you'll know, is kind of the last step in a lot of the process of a project. Yeah. So we sit there a lot of times, in a lot of information that's not really relevant to us, and you kind of get that like look on your face sometimes. So having that, that presence there has been really beneficial to keep me where I need to be. Hey, the client's looking at this RFI. It's directly related to studies. Can you help with this? Or you still need this RFI answered from the client. Let me make sure I continue to bug them on it and get that answer, along with the PAs and getting billing and change orders. It's nice to have that presence as well of like, hey, RPCs are due, report percentage completions due this Friday. Can you go into JARA and, how's your project doing? So yeah, for sure. It definitely has helped, I think, keep the projects on the right track. Yeah. And when changes happen, that's the big one. When changes happen, they're like bringing it up saying, Civil had to have this change. How does it affect electrical? Mm-hmm. And that's really helpful because when you have 4 or 5 different PMs on a project, before you had that central person, that information might not have been communicated right away, clearly. So.
Yeah, the project change process is for sure the most tangible way to describe the benefit of having an MPM. The rest of it, it's important, but it's a lot harder to put your finger on it, how to describe it. We use a lot of platitudes like you have to, be in charge of the project or you have to be on top of things. It's kind of one of those things that when you see it, you know it. And some people just have the aptitude for it and others maybe don't. Mm-hmm. So it is hard to describe at times.
Any other thoughts, experiences?
Well, I was going to say, with the rate that we've been growing, mm-hmm. I think it would be very chaotic if we didn't have the PMO group kind of keeping track of things or organizing things.
Yeah, I agree. One of the questions I was going to bring up is that I actually don't even know the answer, but we started with 1 MPM. What is the number of MPMs that we now have? And I don't know, we started with a handful of PAs, right? And I think we've grown the PA group as well, right? Mm-hmm. So, we don't just we have coordinators too now. Yeah. So maybe describe what a coordinator does and then like how many, because sure. That department's grown.
Yep. Yeah. So we have 4 MPMs and 2 project coordinators. And the number, the size of the department really is just always going to be a function of the size of EVS. Mm-hmm. We, practically speaking, I think we want to have an MPM or a project coordinator on 90% of our projects. Maybe if you include project coordinator being on a project alone, maybe it's even up to 100%. We want to have some level of representation.
And what's the difference between an MPM and a coordinator?
Sure. So a project coordinator is more of a support role to an MPM. An MPM really needs to understand the full responsibilities of project management. A project coordinator is more task oriented. And so they're doing the things that need to get done. They just don't necessarily have to know the bigger picture quite as well. They don't have to ask the hard questions. They don't have to be able to make quite the same correlations between, this thing happened and it means this over here, and now we need to do something because of it.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit more about like project monitoring, right? That's a lot of what you're doing. Can you provide some insight on just what that looks like exactly?
Sure. Well, we have, there's probably 250 active projects, and they probably vary from $1,500 to, close to $2 million. Mm-hmm. And all that is entered into our system, for project management and accounting. It's tied into our finance. And so the PAs take the lead on, they work with the MPM or the PC to set up the project after it's won, and then we can track the activities of the project and the budget in our Agera system.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of updating that, making sure changes are updated, and just to keep things from getting from lagging. And then each of our clients has deadlines, specific deadlines for things like billing and whatnot. So we're always following up to make sure we're billing and collecting. The cash flow is important too.
Yeah. Keep the wheels turning on, keep the lights on, and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
So 33 years, right, Teresa?
Yep, it'll be
Okay.
33 next month.
33 years. You've seen this company evolve, I'm sure, many times over. What do you see the future here at EVS?
I have a hunch I know what's in Teresa's future.
We're not formally announcing that yet.
Okay, you can't say something like that and not say nothing. What are we talking about?
No, it's just funny how starting out as the small firm that we were, and watching the growth over the last 10 years, last 5 years has been phenomenal. I just remember I would never have envisioned in EVS to be this company, and to have such nice office facilities, and just a great culture to work in, a comfortable place to work. And the funny thing is, from day one, it was always a family-owned company. Very work-life balance was important before that was even talked about. And to see now at the size we are, they still have the same values and that same feel. It's family-owned. It's very work-life balance. It's a fun place to work, and that's something that's important as we grow. And from the plans that I've seen, continue growing a lot to keep that culture is really one of the top goals.
Okay, I like it. I mean, and to just, I haven't been here as long as y'all, but I've been here almost 4 years, and I think I was employee number 78, and I think we just hit 200. So just even seeing that growth in the 4 years it's pretty impressive. What about you, Rob? What do you think? What do you see the future? What's next on the list of growth?
Well, we just hit 200 people today. The civil department is, 2-3 years ago, the civil department grew to a size larger than the company ever was the first 15 years I worked here. And so just watching people grow and become leaders, probably the favorite part of my job is developing our department managers, because their departments are just going to get bigger and bigger. Civil went from 7 to 50 some. Those other, Geotech is new, just started a couple years ago. Structural's been here for a while, 9-10 years. So just developing the leaders, watching that grow.
All right. What about you, Noah? Where's the future? Where's the future of the PMO group?
Well, the PMO is, like I said, it's going to continue to grow at the rate that it needs to, just to support the rest of EVS's project load. We're not a revenue center. We are not a scope that anybody goes out and sells. We just support the projects. So for the most part, it'll be grow at whatever rate EVS needs us to keep up. There's some potential for things to shift around a little bit within the next 16 months, just in terms of recognizing what role the MPM role really plays. Is it more of an operations role? Is it a client management role? And we've had this debate for months now. We kind of go back and forth on which of those two elements of the role itself are the most important. And I think we're landing on the fact that while it feels like you're doing an operational job every day, at the heart of it is really ensuring client satisfaction. And so there will be some restructuring there in the future, just to kind of acknowledge that and align the MPMs with managers in a role that really is focused on ensuring client satisfaction. But for the rest of the company, in terms of the future, what additional services we might offer and additional clients, you don't have the right person in the room necessarily to talk about that. You've got Dennis and Sohan and Andy as our visionaries. Those are the kind of things that they look towards. But for Rob and Teresa and I, my big passion as we grow is, like you said, making sure that we keep the culture, because we've grown accustomed to it, and it was a very specific culture at 20 people, and we knew it wasn't going to be easy to keep it that way. I feel like we still have that. But the next most important thing to me is bulletproofing what we have here. And you can't grow from 20 to 200 without creating some chaos and complexity.
Yeah.
And if somebody isn't actively looking for those things, to keep things organized and so that everybody understands what's expected of them, you can get lost on the way.
Sure.
And so I don't know how big we're going to go, but how big we're going to grow to and at what timeline. But I know that my passion for that growth is going to be seeing to it that we bulletproof everything that we have, and so that there isn't any unintended consequences of that growth.
Okay.
The industry is strong. It's growing. Our clients are growing rapidly, and we need to grow to keep up with them.
Yeah.
So I see it continuing. Where it will stop, who's to say?
Sure.
But we're not there yet.
It's exciting times.
Yeah.
So segueing to, I like what you all just said there. One of the things, Chris usually fields this softball question, but he's not here. So I'll start with you, Teresa. What advice would you give somebody who is coming into this career, this renewables career, either from a different industry or straight out of school? What type of advice would you give them to be successful?
I'd say come in with an open mind, ask a lot of questions, take advantage of the experiences of the people who came before you, and just listen, but be active.
Okay. I like that. Rob?
Yes, kind of playing off of what Teresa said, I'd say be curious. You got to know why we do what we do. We can teach you how to do something, but if you know why we do it, then you can improve it. You can apply it to something similar or adjacent, and it's just a real value for personal development as well as your career development. Yeah, be curious, ask questions.
I like the why. That's something I know we hit really hard in our department. Why are we doing something? Why does that matter? Not just the technical part of it, but maybe even just like the project related part of it. There's, decisions on why something was decided that way. And you've helped me a lot with that actually, throughout the years of like, why are we doing it that way? Why did we budget it that way? Why did we bill it that way? Just, even knowing that really does help you understand. And like you said, potentially improve it. So I really like what you said there. How about you, Noah? What's the advice you'd give somebody?
I would advise them to drink lots of water and get lots of sleep.
Hey, we all need that. So that's, that's good.
It's a fast-paced environment for sure. But the positive that comes with that is a lot of opportunity. And so in addition to being curious, I would encourage everybody to understand that you don't have to and shouldn't sit back and wait for things to come to you. The people that seem to succeed the most in this industry are those that are not afraid to deal with a little bit of ambiguity and just kind of walk straight into it and just trust that we can figure it out. And the biggest difference now is we actually have some safety nets that we didn't used to have. And I can tell you that used to keep me up at night a lot. And Rob knows about it. The people that know me for as long as I've been here know what that stress was like for a while. And it was just simply the lack of safety net because we had so few clients and so little work, but the opportunity was there. And it felt like there's a chance for this to go really well, or there's a chance for this to go very poorly, and this might be our last one. And that isn't the case anymore. So I would be excited if I was a young person in this industry to realize that there's so much opportunity for me to do something that nobody's done before. And it isn't going to be life or death. I'm allowed to just get in and try to figure it out.
It's one of the things I always like to say about where we're positioned in the industry is we are solving the problems that don't have answers. It's one of the things I get excited about is a lot of we're setting trends. We're setting the trend of what this industry is going to look like, in the future. And that challenge is a lot of fun. Stressful sometimes, but it's a lot of fun too to put your stamp on there and to really understand it. So. Well, yeah, that's going to do it for us on the Sounds of Solar podcast. I just wanted to thank all of you for for joining. It was a pleasure to speak with all of you. Yeah. So thanks again for listening. Subscribe, hit the buttons, do all the things that Chris says to do, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks.